don't seem to have video, but I do hear you.
Let me try.
Let's see.
I'm trying to do this on my phone. The internet went down.
And I see you, Amanda. If I could do it, if you could please do a mic check.
Amanda Gaio.
Thank you.
She's had internet issues. So that's different than.
Yeah, that's why that says she had the internet.
So she's doing that on.
Joelle, if you could please do a mic check.
Joel Barton
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. Oh, and I see you there, Susan.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank everyone else. Let's make sure no one else is.
I just got another text from somebody who says
He has not responded.
of course, are you?
This, I'm sorry. Okay, he's good. No, he's not. Did you do a camera mic check for him?
Yeah, I did see it.
Yeah, he's on the.
Okay. And David, if we could please do a camera and mic check.
Is he 8?
I'll say that.
He's going to get to 7. We don't get to 7.
This is Steve. David said he was having audio and video problems.
Is he still having issues?
Yeah, we thought they got resolved, but, okay. Let's,
To the complete meeting, let me know when you announce.
So when I do the roll call, I'm gonna.
Make a motion to we don't have council coming for 10 or 11, right? It's going to be at 10. It's about to be at 10. Yeah. Closed session. I'm going to call There's a number of board members this morning.
When I do the roll,
So Amanda, people start squeezing into the rest of their day. Rather than.
Oh, I know, he brings us up.
And we'd like to confirm which ones need to leave early. It could be before 12.
And then you take over.
I got it.
yeah, we're only including on a big deal of Torah, and we're still using for that either.
Very good to know.
David and Matt on the board. In case they no out.
Good morning. The time is 9:03, and I will call to order the December 13th, 2023 meeting of the Contractors State License Board. I am Diana Love, CSLB Board Chair. This is a hybrid board meeting today. 4 board members are here in Sacramento. The remaining board members are participating remotely. We are joined here today by WebEx on this video screen. Board members will be using cameras during this hybrid meeting. Please have your camera on for the duration of the meeting. When you would like to comment during the meeting, please select the raise your hand icon in the WebEx application. Our moderator will call on board members to speak. When called upon, please unmute yourself, and when finished, return to mute. We will be taking a break today at approximately 10:30 a.m. Public Affairs Chief Catherine White is our host and moderator today. And at this time, we will do the roll call. Robin?
Before we take roll, I think there's 2 present here in Sacramento.
Okay.
Or they just, the last minute changes.
Yes.
Okay, I will change that to 2 board members. Thank you.
Good morning. Before I take roll, when I announce your name, please let me know if you're limited on time and what time that's going to be when you leave. Diana Love,
Present.
Joel Barton.
Here.
Rodney
Roberts.
Cobos.
Joel, will you be
Yes.
able to speak till noon?
Yes, I'm here.
I don't know if everybody heard what Robin said, that we need to know to confirm when he does the roll call, if you need to leave before 12 o'clock today.
Oh, I apologize, Dave. No, I should be good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Rodney Cobos.
Here.
David De La Torre. David De La Torre.
He had a drop off and then he's going to be rejoining.
Okay. Miguel Galarza.
Here.
Amanda Gaia.
Here, I will have to leave before noon.
Susan Granzella.
Here,
Alan Guy.
Here and get through noon.
Jacob Lopez.
Here, if it's permissible, Dave, I have a meeting at 10 that I got to step out for maybe 45 minutes. And if it's permissible, I can get back online. If not, I will be out for the rest of the day.
That would be preferred, what he's suggesting, Sherlock, that he step out for 45 minutes.
That's fine.
Michael Mark.
Here.
Steve Pinelli.
Here,
Jim Ruane.
Here.
Mary Tykert.
Mary's asked to join at 9:30 and she may need to leave early.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Robin. At this time, I will ask Vice Chair Michael Mark to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone, please rise and move your hats. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I will now ask if any board members have any agenda items they would like to be considered for a future meeting. Are there any board members? Are there anyone online?
Seeing none at this time.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce a special guest who is with us in person today from the Department of Consumer Affairs, Yvonne Durance, with DCA Board and Bureau Relations. Yvonne attended and introduced yourself at the November 29th Enforcement Committee meeting, and today she will provide additional information regarding Department of Consumer Affairs activities. And I also want to take a moment to thank her for her input and assisting Register Dave Full in the matters at hand. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I figured this might be better with the volume, but thank you for having me today. It's great to be here. My name is Yvonne Durantes. I am the Assistant Deputy Director with Board and Bureau Relations. I have a couple updates. If you do have any questions or follow-ups too, we did just send out our Board and Bureau Relations monthly email to board presidents and vice presidents on Monday. And so a lot of the information that I will just touch on briefly is in that email that I'm also happy to forward to any members that are interested in having all of the information I will be providing. A lot of the information that I will be providing, just touching on quickly too, is on our fall newsletter, which is also posted on our board member resources page. I also just want to let you all know that I am happy to be a resource. We do have upcoming training deadlines, which are December 31st. And so if you don't recall which trainings you have already took, please feel free to reach out to me, and I am happy to let you know what your training transcript looks like and what trainings are outstanding at this moment. And so just quickly, just want to provide you all with an update on our BCSH agency leadership changes. We do have a new agency secretary that was recently appointed at the end of November. Her name is Tamika Moss, and she is coming over from the Bay Area, and she will be beginning her term early 2024. Until then, we do have Undersecretary Melinda Grant, who will continue to act in her place. We do also have our DEI committee meeting happening tomorrow. So we will have additional updates and possibly changes in leadership. And so we will be covering a series of items, including hiring principals as well as it relates to DEI principles. Also, we did just launch the military portal. That was on November 29th, and the department did successfully launch it as a new process to support service members and their family who are following the new federal and state laws, which passed last year. And so this federal portability portal was completely built by DCA staff, and so we commend them for that. And also, this will be a great resource for service members and their spouses who come over to California due to military orders. If there are any additional questions on that, happy to answer them offline. As you all know, there will be changes to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act beginning January 1st. There will be 4 options that will be available, and those are outlined in our newsletter and also our BBR monthly email. So again, it's a bit lengthy, but there are 4 new options, and so please refer to your registrar or your board legal counsel for any specifics if you are interested on whether something will or will not be permissible beginning January 1st. And just like I mentioned, the trainings are coming to a deadline, December 31st. And so if you have not completed the 2022 to 2023 sexual harassment prevention training, the supervisory version of it, please do so, because the deadline is December 31st and you will be out of compliance if you do not complete it by then. So if you did complete the 2020, 2021, that is no longer permissible or within this round. So you will need to take the 2022-2023 version of it. And lastly, I do just want to touch on, if you haven't already heard, we are currently still in the Our Promise campaign fundraising era. So it is board members and state employees giving at work. We did send some information to all board members on Giving Tuesday following Thanksgiving with information on how you may be able to donate, beginning with even just $5. I am one of the campaign chairs this year, co-chairs this year. So if you do have any question on how you may be able to donate to any nonprofit of your choice, please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to assist you with that. And like I said, you are able to donate even as little as $5, which can make a difference. And so thank you all, and I'm happy to answer any questions or send any information via email if you need. My email is yvonne.durantes@dca.ca.gov. And either I or David can also send you my contact information in case you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. We now move to agenda item B, which is for public comment and to request agenda items for future meetings. The board values public input as part of our consumer protection mission. To allow us enough time to conduct our full schedule of business today, I am limiting public comments to 3 minutes apiece. If your comments don't involve an item on today's agenda, this would be the time where you make them. If you have comments on one of our agenda items, we encourage you to wait until we get to that item. We will give you an opportunity to make your comments at that time. We also ask that your public comment relate to the agenda item currently before the board. There are a few other rules that apply. First, California law prohibits board members from discussing any matter brought up during public comment, and board members are not allowed to act on any item not on today's agenda. If you want the board to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can ask us to consider placing that issue on the agenda of a future meeting. And finally, if you have an application, complaint, or disciplinary charges pending before the board, we ask that you do not discuss the details of your application case or pending complaint. That is because board members may be the judges and by law are not permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. For everyone's information, as a result of our hybrid set up today, we will be calling for public comments in two ways. First, here in person at the Sacramento headquarters, and second, online WebEx participants. Members of the public using WebEx, if you would like to make a comment, use the chat feature to send the host a note that you would like to offer public comment. If you are joining us on the phone and would like to make a public comment, press *9. We will take any WebEx comments first, followed by telephone comments. We will use the same system throughout the meeting for public comment during each agenda item. You will find instructions on how to make public comments on the agenda for this meeting posted on our CSLB website. Here in Sacramento, do any board members have an item they would like to place on future agenda?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Okay, on WebEx, does anyone have any items they would like to place on future agenda? Catherine, do you see anyone?
See, but we do have public comment with it. Excuse me.
I didn't hear you.
We have a public comment, because we don't have any board members.
Okay.
Excuse me. All right, Richard Markinson, I'm going to be sending you a request to unmute. You've been unmuted.
Good morning, Richard Markinson. This is not an agenda item. This is a public comment. Do you want to take that now?
This is a public.
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Richard Markinson speaking to you this morning on behalf of the Greater Bay chapter of the American Fire Sprinkler Association with a compliment for the CSLB staff. The AFSA is pleased that CSLB has been cooperating and collaborating with the State Fire Marshal on enforcement of sprinkler fitter certification. That helps the entire industry by addressing situations where there are non-compliant contractors. AFSA appreciates that and commends the leadership and the staff of CSLB for these efforts with the State Fire Marshal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Seeing none at this time.
Okay. Are there any comments from the members of the public here today? No, I see no comments. I will move into our next item, which is the presentation of certificates of recognition, which is agenda item C. Today, we are recognizing CSLB staff member Renee Davis. Renee is retiring after 37 years of service at the board. If you can believe it, she began her career in 1986 with CSLB and has served in several different roles, but primarily within the Information Technology Division. She is known for her institutional wealth of knowledge and for being a fantastic resource for staff. Renee played a lead role in the implementation of the board's sponsored bill SB 216 that mandates workers' compensation insurance for specific license classifications. Renee is unable to be with us today. However, it is my privilege to read the plaque. The Contractors State License Board presents this recognition for 37 years of service to Renee Davis, Information Technology Specialist. On behalf of the board, thank you for your outstanding service to the Contractors State License Board, and congratulations on your retirement. And it's dated December 2023. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank Renee for her excellent work and dedication to the CSLB for all these years, and I'm sorry that she wasn't able to join us today. And I would like to ask, are there any comments from the board here in Sacramento on behalf of Renee? I see no comments. And on WebEx, Catherine, do you see anyone?
Not at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Renee, for your service. I hope you get a chance to come back and just drop in and say hello from time to time and give us some more advice of words of wisdom. So now we will move to agenda item D through D4, and that is to review and approve the board members, and you'll find this on page 11 through 74 of the packet as follows. June 22nd and 23rd board meeting minutes. And let me note for record that the board previously approved these minutes at the September 23rd, 2023 board meeting. However, staff recently found a typo in the June 22 and 23 minutes. Jacob Lopez, who attended both of those meetings, was incorrectly excluded from the roll call. This typo has been corrected. As a result, the minutes are being submitted for re-approval. September 14th, 2023 board minutes, October 23, 2023 board minutes, and the November 15th, 2023 board minutes. I have recommended in the interest of time that a single vote be taken to approve the 5 board meeting minutes simultaneously. However, I will first ask if anyone has any edits to the minutes as presented. Board members here in Sacramento, do you have any edits?
No.
I see none. And remotely on WebEx, does anyone have any edits? You see anyone, Catherine?
Seeing none.
Okay. At this time, can I get a motion to approve the June 2022 and June 2023, the September 14th, and the October 30th, and the November 15th, 2023 board minutes?
Motion to approve, Michael Moore.
Wait, second.
That was Jim Rowan.
Is that Jim Moran?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the board or anyone on WebEx? Seeing none, Robin, would you please call roll?
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Barton,
Aye.
Rodney Kobos,
Aye.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza.
Aye.
Amanda Gallo,
Aye.
Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Alan Guy,
Aye.
Jacob Lopez. Jacob Lopez. Steve Pinelli.
I think that might have been Jacob.
Okay. Steve Pinelli,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jim Ruane,
Aye.
And Mary Tucker will be joining us soon. Motion passes.
Thank you, Robin. Next is the registrar's report. I will hand it over to Registrar David Pope.
Thank you, Chair Love. What I wanted to talk about this morning is the upcoming board meetings. Many of you have asked about board meetings in 2024. We haven't surveyed for those meetings yet because the focus in the next 6 months, first we have to complete the sunset review process, but we're going to be transitioning into the next strategic plan. I think most of you are aware that our current plan was a 3-year strategic plan that was adopted in 2022. It does expire in 2024. So where we're at is we have obtained a strategic facilitator, an analyst and facilitator to lead us through this process. And that's Tricia St. Clair. There'll be a meeting with Tricia next Wednesday here at CSLB headquarters. And at that meeting, what will be discussed is a timeline for the board to adopt the next, hopefully 3-year strategic plan. What we're looking at is in January or February, conducting what they refer to as the environmental scan. That's where surveys are sent out to stakeholders. So between now and in the next few weeks, if you have any ideas as to what you'd like to see stakeholders surveyed on, I'll just give you some examples. For the last strategic plan, there was a focus on looking at the underground economy. I mean, what more can we do to protect consumers? It's always very helpful. What IT opportunities may exist? But the surveys will be sent out ideally in January and February. I'm going to try to coordinate with the facilitator for availability for a board meeting here in Sacramento. It can be a hybrid meeting. You heard from Yvonne Durantes that we will still have an option of having board meetings where the majority of the board will have to be in person, but we can still have some board members participate remotely. We're looking at having the physical location at the March board meeting here in Sacramento. And then the next full board meeting would be in June. And at that meeting, once again, we will meet with our counterparts from Nevada. They've asked that we meet in Orange County. So I'm excited about that. But that's where ideally the board would adopt the strategic plan. So after the meeting next Wednesday, we should be able to identify dates that our facilitators available, and then Robin will survey all board members for availability for a board meeting in March and then one in June. Be happy to answer any questions about the strategic planning process of the upcoming board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Registrar Pope. Are there any comments from board members here in Sacramento?
As counters fill it very quickly, please send that survey for board members as soon as possible. That'd be great.
So Robin, maybe by the end of next week, we could survey.
Yeah.
Are there any comments from board members on WebEx?
Yes, this is board member Susan Grenzel, and it's not necessarily about Dave's report, but could you please monitor the mute functionality, because when we are on WebEx, we're hearing a lot of rustling of paper, and that's getting in the way of hearing the message. So I just wanted to call that to your attention. I realize there may have been challenges this morning, probably an understatement, but thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Are there any comments from the public here in the room? Seeing none, I will move to the next item, which is the CSLB budget update. We're now on executive item D6, the CSLB budget update, which begins on page 79. I will turn it over to Budget Manager Stacy Paul.
Thank you, Board Chair, and good morning, everyone. On page 79 begins the budget update. This summarizes our projected budget and expenses for this fiscal year 23-24. CSLB has an authorized budget of $79 million, and as highlighted in the chart below, we expect to expend $91 million in revenue, $78.5 million in board expenses, and $6.3 million in mandatory external costs. Revenue should exceed total expenditures, which would increase our reserves to 32 million or 4.5 months at year end. If you flip the page, the first chart shows this fiscal year's budget and expenses through October. Nothing too exciting as we've spent 33% of our budget thus far. The chart directly below shows our revenue through October. Overall, I'm happy to report that we are exceeding prior year revenue by 14.3%. On the next page, the chart includes our fund condition, which projects out to budget year 24-25. The middle column is the current year, where it shows our beginning fund balance at 25.8 million. If year-end projections are realized, as discussed on page 79, then we should increase our reserves to the 32 million or 4.5 months. Then if you look at the last column, which is next budget year, you can see if we can continue to replenish our reserves, we should be at 38 million or 5 months in reserves. Keep in mind, our goal is to annually maintain 4 to 6 months of reserves in our fund. Flipping to page 82, the chart shows our construction management education fund, which we continue to see an increase in annual donations. I'm glad to report that we have received final approval by the Department of Finance to increase our grant disbursements this fiscal year from $175,000 to $225,000. This will be discussed further in the licensing update. Lastly, let me quickly touch on the statistical summary details on the next 2 pages. First, the first quarter of the fiscal year, we're seeing a promising number with an increase in original apps received and new license issued. Renewals also appear steady for the first quarter, with a 2.9% increase over 2 years ago. This concludes the budget update, unless you have questions.
Thank you, Stacy. Are there any comments from board members present here in Sacramento?
Yeah, I'll make a comment. Michael Mark. When I first joined this board, I think the reserves were at close to 1 month mark. So I appreciate the staff really trying to hone in the budgets and making sure we get that 4 to 6 month target. That has been really, really fortunate. And eventually, when we get to that 6 month budget, then we can figure out other ways to use our funds to help the consumers in California. So I appreciate all the hard work from budget staff.
Appreciate the help from all the secretaries I've had over the last difficult years. So,
thank you. Are there any comments from board members on WebEx?
Seeing none of this comment.
Thank you. Are there anyone here in the public that have any comments? Okay, seeing none. Before I move into the next item, I just wanted to recognize Rick Hines and Robert Blunt from Northern California Carpenters for being with us today and their continued support to CSLB's consumer protection efforts and collaborating to combat the underground economy. It's always a challenging thing for us, and I just want to thank them all. So moving into our next item, item 7, D7, administrative update regarding personnel and facilities, which begins on page 87 of your packet. CSLB is still in the recruitment process to fill behind recently retired administration chief Mike Walza. Leading us through the discussion is CSLB's personnel manager, Ingrid Vitowski.
Thank you, Chair Love. So moving into the update for vacancies, CSLB averaged 33 vacancies out of 425 authorized positions in the first month of this 5 months of fiscal year 2023-2024. The personnel unit continuously works with CSLB hiring managers and Department of Consumer Affairs Office of Human Resources to identify and minimize any delays in recruitment for key positions. Next, Consumer Affairs Services representative classification transition. So in June 2023, CSLB began the process of transitioning from the Consumer Services Representatives classification to the Staff Services Analyst classification. The transition is being made to better align with the analytical duties performed by the board's 32 CSR employees, as well as increase recruitment and retention efforts. The transition should be completed by December 2023. Further, on page 89 of the board packet, you can find the administration updates regarding facilities, contracts, and training. I do not have any specific updates to any of these items listed. However, I understand the pending request for a proposal to evaluate CSLB resources to address unlicensed activity and unlawful practice in declared disaster areas will receive further discussion in the enforcement program update later in this meeting. And that concludes the administrative update on personnel and facilities. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Ingrid. Are there any comments from board members present here in Sacramento? Seeing none, are there any comments on WebEx from board members? Seeing none. Okay, any comments from the public here in Sacramento? Okay, seeing none, we will move on until the next item, which is information technology update. Please turn to page 93 of your board packet. Jason Perez, please update the board.
Thank you, Board Chair Love, and good morning, everyone. Today, I'm pleased to present the latest advancements of the CSLB's Information Technology Division, focusing on how these changes are not only improving our services for the construction industry, but also enhancing the transparency and accessibility for the general public. Our main effort going into the IT division is our business modernization, and we're concentrating on the application for our original contractor's license for sole owners. This transformation is designed with the goal of simplifying processes for our construction industry professionals. The new online application system will be developed in partnership with a carefully selected vendor, SimplyGov, prioritizing efficiency, user-friendliness, and clarity, benefiting both the construction industry and CSLB. We anticipate the contract to be signed in January. Current project that we're currently working on is the AWS Connect IVR system. This is understanding the diverse needs of the construction industry and our public. We are transitioning to the AWS Connect IVR system. This is a modern call center software which is designed to improve interactions with all stakeholders, including the construction industry and the public. The features that are included in this new project are improved call routing, where we'll be able to swiftly and efficiently connect to the right representative, enhancing the experience for both the public and the construction professionals. Next, we would have better data analytics to understand and address specific inquiries during these calls. And also to security, where we'll be able to protect the confidentiality of the information that is being shared to the CSLB call agents. We anticipate this system to be fully operational in April of 2024, marking a significant step in improving our services and capabilities for both the construction industry and the public. A project we just recently completed, which was the Microsoft Teams calling. We successfully completed the migration to this, move from our currently old VoIP system. This technological upgrade is creating a more cohesive and responsive communication environment for both construction industry professionals and general public. We were able to integrate voice, video, and messaging into a single platform for easier access for all CSLB, facilitating a more sufficient interaction between CSLB staff and construction industry members. This was an organization-wide implementation, ensuring a consistent communication across all boards. With the completion of this project, CSLB is better positioned to meet the dynamic communication needs of our modern workspace. These technological advancements reflect CSLB's commitment to modernization, security, and customer service excellence. We extend our gratitude to everyone involved in this project for their hard work and dedication. The successful implementation of Microsoft Teams calling marks a significant step forward in our journey towards digital transformation and excellence in service. Thank you for your attention. I am open to any questions.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the board here in Sacramento?
No.
Any comments from the board on the WebEx?
No, at this time.
Any public comments here in Sacramento? I see that. And I just want to do a quick follow-up for any members that are on the phone. Are there any, do we have any members on the phone that have any comments on any of the items thus far? Or any public comments?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. I will now move into the next item, which is legislation. The board meeting content for this item is provided separately in the form of the board's 2024 draft sunset report. There's a hard copy draft on the table in the back of the room for those here in Sacramento. Anyone following along online, there is a link to the draft report at the very top.
We have no sound.
I can't hear.
Undergoes before legislature every 4 years. In this case, CSLB's last review was 5 years ago. The legislature extended it an additional year during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, the substantive report consists of over 500 pages, including attachments, detailing 5 years of CSLB's work in fulfilling its consumer protection mission. The first 150 pages are the report itself without attachments. At the June 2023 board meeting, former chair Mary Teichert appointed a 2-person advisory committee for staff to work with in preparation for the draft. I was pleased to be appointed along with board member Michael Garza to serve as a resource to staff over the past several months while the report was prepared. As the board is aware, at both the September as well as the November board meeting, staff presented and the board reviewed staff's draft responses and proposed plans for the required new issues and prior issues in the sunset report. It is now time for the board to consider authorizing staff to submit a final version of this draft to the legislature by its due date, the first week of January 2024. With that, I'll turn it over to fellow Sunset Advisory Committee member Miguel Garza for any other comments. Miguel, are you there?
Indeed. Thank you, Chair Love. First and foremost, I want to thank the staff and in particular Hannah for the outstanding and tremendous work in putting this heavy lift together, including just a myriad of issues that we discussed and reviewed and had answers to. In addition to those items, we came to the conclusion that there were 6 items that were important enough to include as new issues moving forward that greatly increase the protection for consumers and also improve the processes for the industry. And so I think we've been a lot of work done, a lot of meetings done, and it could not have been done without the extensive work of staff and fauna. So with that, Chair Love, I pass back the baton.
Thank you, Miguel. I now turn to Legislative Committee Chair Michael Mark to introduce this item.
So I guess I'm going to pass it to Fauna.
Is that it? Okay.
That's all I have. particular items.
Okay.
Could you introduce it? Talk about, there are some edits that need to be made, we'll need permission to make those after this meeting.
Yes, so this item is up for approval, so we will need a motion. I'm going to discuss the content, but in order to give the board more time with the content, we sent it to you before I had a chance to look at this with fresh eyes. Also, we sent it to you before we had a chance to finalize. So when we ask for approval, that will be with the knowledge that the work left to finalize this are to add a cover, to add a letter from Chair Love, to add a table of contents. I would like to add an index of acronyms if time permits. I need to reread and edit with fresh eyes for typos, grammatical errors, things like that happen when you revise writing. I received some edits from Mariah, who was nice enough to go through this, so I welcome any and all suggestions for minor edits. I am hoping to have this finalized by Friday. We also need to add page number references. You'll see those highlighted throughout the draft where we make references in the narrative to page numbers. We need to add attendance for this meeting. There are attendance charts in the report, so we have to add that. And I will also, as part of that, I will be double checking Board Member Lopez's attendance at the last couple of meetings. I have added live links where appropriate, so if there's anything published online, there will be a live link in the report. If there's a regulation or statute section that's referenced, there's also live links there. And we also need to add the org charts. So none of this, it sounds like a lot, but none of this is substantive. These are minor edits. So when we ask for approval, it's of the content, knowing that this work will be done before submission to the legislature. Did you want to add anything, Dave?
No.
Before I get started? Okay, so before I get into the content itself, I received confirmation this morning from the Senate Business Professions and Economic Development Committee that although they haven't released their schedule, they are planning for, or they're shooting for late February, early March for hearings. So that might help your scheduling for the next meetings. This is due to the legislature on January 4th, 2024. And so I'm going to start with the part that the board members have not yet seen, which is the template questions 1 through 67. So section 1 is about the history and background, board composition, and program organization. This section describes and tracks board and committee meetings. On question 2 on page 15, I wanted to point out that in the past 5 years, we have not had a problem making quorum. That is rare, so I want to applaud board members whose commitment has allowed us to say this in our second straight sunset report. Pages 5 through 17 discuss changes to the board since the last sunset review, including reorganization, relocation, change in leadership, and strategic planning. This section also includes all legislation and that impacted CSLB and regulations adopted and approved by the board and regulations that are in progress. Those are on pages 18 through 23. Question 4 on page 23 asks about major studies conducted by the board. We also included studies commissioned by the board. So those include an energy storage systems report in 2019. This was to introduce the board to the whole battery storage issue. The staff report on mandated workers' compensation for certain license classifications. This was to discuss the efficacy of requiring workers' compensation for all classifications. There was a study in response to Senate Bill 610 by Senator Glazer to research the advantages to consumers in increasing the license bond.
There was a 2020 fee study that led to our fee increases that allowed us to avoid insolvency. And then the two battery energy storage system studies, the ones by UC Berkeley and the one conducted by staff. So those are all attached to this at the end of the report, which is how we got to 500 pages. Are there any questions about that section before I move on to section 2? No? Okay. Section 2 begins on page 27. It's about CSLB's fiscal status and staffing. Pages 27 through 31 discuss fiscal issues. I want to point out on page 27, there's table 2. Between the fee increases of 2021, along with exercising fiscal conservancy and strategic hiring, the fund is up to 3.7 months of reserves, or at least it was on June 30th. So Stacy just spoke about how it continues to increase. So our fund is becoming more healthy. And so I wanted to point that out, that this report reflects that. Table 10 on page 28 shows the expenditure by program area. I'd like to point out that personnel services increased over the last 2 years due to us gaining 4 additional positions through budget change proposals and migrating the enforcement representatives in enforcement to special investigators, which are higher paid but easier to recruit for, and they have a higher threshold to meet minimum qualifications. So that's reflected in the enforcement budget line item or expenditures line item. You'll also notice on the examinations line item, expenditures went down by 1.3 million. This is attributed to outsourcing exam administration, and licensing saw a decrease from fiscal year 21-22 to fiscal year 22-23 after moving the call center from the licensing division to the public affairs office. You'll see that the administration line item has a corresponding increase in those same years because the public affairs office is part of administration. The rest of the fiscal portion discusses fees, the fee increase, and budget change proposals. Those are all standard. Pages 32 through 39 discuss staffing issues, including challenges in hiring, vacancy rates, reclassified and redirected positions, and staff training and development. Is there anything on this section before I jump to section 3?
If there's any board members on WebEx that have comments, please let us know. And the public.
Seeing any of this time.
Okay. So I'll move to section 3. This is the section that covers our licensing program. It's on pages 40 through 60. Highlights include on page 41, there are tables showing whether we meet processing goals as outlined in regulation. It appears as though we are not meeting those goals for home improvement salespersons, but so we explain in the narrative why that is. And the goal that's in regulation was from 1984. This is before fingerprinting was enacted. So that going through the sunset review process showed us that we need to update that regulation to a more manageable timeline. 6 days is not enough to get fingerprints. On page 45, table 6 shows our active licensing populations, which has been steady for the past 4 years. Although our delinquent and expired have increased, we are looking into the reasons for that and monitoring our current licensed populations to make sure or find out whether that's an anomaly or if that's an ongoing issue. On page 46, table 7A, we show decreased renewal processing times. This can be attributed to the online renewals that were implemented during COVID and they've greatly reduced our processing times, and the number of licensees who use the online renewals has gone up every year. So there's a corresponding decrease in cycle times. And then on page 58, question 26 asks about existing statutes that hinder efficient and effective application processing. For those, I point to each of the new issues, which are legislative proposals that impact licensing. So where we saw an issue, we presented where we saw a statute that needed to be updated, we presented a new issue at the end of the report. So hopefully we can discuss this with the legislature, hopefully helping us out with that. Are there any questions about the licensing section? Okay. I will jump to section 4. This is our enforcement section, pages 61 through 60. Oh, I typed 69, but I think it's 89. 79, thank you. The most important question in this section is, well, arguably, is question 33 on page 62. This discusses trends that we've seen in enforcement as reflected by enforcement data. We have the same trends as we did during the last sunset review. These are increasing complaints, increasing solar complaints, and increasing disaster recovery or disaster response that puts a strain on our enforcement staff. Although I lost my train of thought. Additionally, we're on pace to have a record high in complaints and consumer complaints this year. That is not reflected on the table that's there. The reporting period goes through June 30th of this year. But currently, we're on pace to set a record above the record that was set by fiscal year 22-23. On page 65 and 66, we discuss the data that is not reflected in the table, but contributes to the pressures put on our enforcement resources. So those are solar, which is especially problematic at the top of page 66. You'll see we would have seen a small decrease in complaints had it not been for the 176% increase since the last sunset in solar complaints. So this is an issue that we highlight throughout. It's a through line in this report. Additionally, our SWIFT unit and the enforcement division, they do our proactive enforcement. They have participated in more disaster response efforts than any other year. So that contributed to longer processing times. However, we are within our goals, processing goals, and that is stated in the first question of the section. So I don't want to alarm. We're still within our goals, but they are increasing. Table 10 on page 67 discusses case aging, and you'll notice that the majority of complaints, which is 69%, are closed within 90 days. So our enforcement division is still performing very well in spite of the additional pressures placed on them. And then the last thing I want to point out about enforcement is our enforcement of unlicensed activity. This is discussed on page 71 and 72. Although consumer complaints are CSLB's priority, the SWIFT unit still actively works to curtail unlicensed activity through proactive enforcement and interagency operations with task forces. So I pulled information from reports that those task forces submitted to the legislature so we can show how much we do when we work with other agencies. On page 74, question 43 asks what type of violations for which we cite most often. Those are in a table we noticed that there are very different violations for unlicensed contractors and licensed contractors. So we wanted to point that out. And the majority of licensed contractors, the majority of those citations include home improvement contract violations, workmanship violations, and building standards. So, and then finally, at the end of enforcement, pages 77 through 79, question 50 asks about restitution. This is where we get to quantify our positive impact to consumers. We have more restitution authority than many other programs, so I made sure we put that in there. We have 2 additional tables. One is about the solar energy system restitution program, and the other is about how we are able to order restitution or get some kind of financial redress for consumers through other methods. So that was the best section to write. Are there any questions about that, about the enforcement section?
None at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, this will move a lot faster from this point forward. Section 5, public information policies, is on page 80 through 83. These are about what information we make public on our website and our outreach activities. So on question 56, pages 81 through 83, that question highlights our public information office and the work they do to educate consumers and licensees. Those include online documents, media responses, in-person outreach, including senior scam stoppers and other public events, social media, and disaster response. Links are provided whenever there's a document that's posted online, so you can review those. Are there any questions about this section? Okay. Section 6 on pages 84 and 85. This is just one question, and it's about the ability to acquire, how the ability to acquire customers online contributes to unlicensed activity. So this question is, people are getting more creative, so I discussed some of the new ways that we've noticed in the past couple of years that contractors are using to acquire customers and, engage in unlicensed activity. Are there any questions about that one? Okay, section 7, workforce development and job creation. That's on pages 86 through 88. This section is directed, it's mostly for other DCA programs that approve schools, curriculum, training programs, internships, and other have other elements that may influence workforce development. We don't have that, but although it's not a mandate for CSLB, we have done work in this area. That includes managing the construction management education account, creating the B2 license to provide a pathway to licensure for contracts who have experience in multiple areas, but not carpentry or framing. Additionally, question 63 on pages 87 and 88 asks about reducing or eliminating inequities experienced by licensees, applicants, and consumers from vulnerable communities. These activities include translating examinations and study guides into Spanish, creating the B2 license type, protecting senior citizens by supporting SB 2471 to extend the right to cancel for senior citizens, administering the solar energy system restitution program, and we are currently submitting a proposal, which is new issue 5 in this report, to allow tribes to obtain a license in California. Any questions on section 7?
No questions, but I do want to note for the record that Mary Teichert has joined the meeting.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Section 8, this section is on page 89. It's a short section. These are questions that didn't really have another place, but the one question that is substantive for us is the question about IT. Chief Perez covered the information that's in that when he presented it a few minutes ago. Section 9 is on pages 90 and 91, and this is a question about our COVID response. This is to find out what we did to protect our employees while still meeting consumer protection mandates. So those actions we took include closing our public counters, instituting mask wearing, social distancing, and other protocols to limit exposure, obtaining laptops for staff to facilitate a reduction of in-office staff, increasing production of educational videos, so licensing workshops which were in person before, when moved to online, and things like that. Developing an online renewal and payment system to reduce the need for office visits. This was huge in multiple ways. And we held board meetings by WebEx. Are there any questions about section 9? Section 10, you have seen. These are, this is on pages 92 through 123. These are the board action in response to fire sunset issues. We've presented this twice. I will not make you go through that again. There haven't been any changes since the November 15th meeting. So this is what you saw the last time. And section 11, which are new issues, these are on pages 124 through 130. These are the full new issues that you saw a summary of at the November 15th meeting. We did not change the issues, we just filled out the explanation a little bit more to make it appropriate to submit to the legislature. And the final section is our attachments. And that includes our administrative manual, the board's administrative manual, the current, a chart showing the current relationship between the board and its committees. Each of the major studies that I mentioned earlier in my presentation, year-end org charts for the previous 4 fiscal years, quarterly and performance measures as published on the DCA website, and results for each question in the board's consumer satisfaction survey broken down by fiscal year. And that gets us to 500 plus pages. With that, I'll turn it back to Chair Love.
Thank you, Carmen. Before we move forward, Thomas said in the beginning that there were going to be some additional changes and edits, and we're going to need to have a motion. So I'm going to turn to John Penn, who's going to help us craft a motion for the board to vote on.
Perhaps ask for any board or public comment, WebEx, phone, or otherwise in person before we throw the motion out there.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from all of the above? The board in the room, on WebEx, on the phone?
I have a comment. Board member Michael Mark. First off, appreciate the hard work that was put into this report. This report is it's definitely in the weeds, and it's really sometimes hard for as a board member to follow along. You mentioned some of the attachments that are included. I believe at the last couple of meetings there was a video with board members as well. So we link that video, show a link with that next to the board manual. That is something that we should add as an attachment as well. I think that came from the Public Affairs Office. Am I incorrect?
I can comment on that. The video is not directly related to the board administrative manual. That it's a separate paperwork that we're using for it. So the board administrative manual helps influence board orientation, but they're not one and the same.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for the clarification. The initial sunset report of all the new items, which, as a board member, what should we look at the most closely between sections 1 through 9? I know the entire report is very, very thorough, but it's, as a pure cliff note, which one should we look at the most here? Because since the November meeting to now, we solved the prior issues, the prior report. And then now that we're seeing the full draft report, there's so much information. I think it was like 200 pages that I was trying to read quickly on electronically. So maybe a clip notes version of the summary. Like what, does that make sense?
Yeah. First, the prior issues are the board-specific questions that we received during the last sunset.
Yes.
So that's just our update for those questions. Regarding the template questions that I would recommend focusing on, I would recommend enforcement. That's always a hot topic at the legislature. Even with the new legislature, it's always, it's the reason why we exist.
In that section, there was a lot of good information regarding how much the solar industry has affected our enforcement, full applications or so.
Yeah,
I appreciate
and
that.
license.
That was really thorough. The licensing enforcement was real thorough.
Yeah, licensing is always a topic too if there's a problem. So if there are issues with cycle times, that may be of interest to them, to the legislature. Normally, when there's fiscal issues, that would be an issue, but I don't think that would be a problem this time. So they will likely have more time to cover licensing and enforcement. So sections 3 and 4.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Any other comments? And I'll just re-emphasize that the full report is available on the top page on the CSLB website for those that would like to read it. And I'll turn it over to John.
I believe we have a motion approving and authorizing the submission of this final version of the draft sunset review report with the addition, as mentioned by Legislative Chief Fauna, that there'll be a cover letter from the chair, a table of contents, an index of acronyms, time permitting, page number references, updated meeting references, and board charts. In addition to any grammatical corrections or naming corrections that need to be made.
That's in order.
If we have a first, for someone to make that motion.
I'll call for the motion.
I'll make the motion and obviously before it's submitted fully, like we're going to provide a final draft on the website. That's my request too before it's submitted.
Well, we're required to post it on the website when it's final, so that will be.
Okay, but I'll make the motion for recommendation from attorney for counsel.
Thanks, Michael Mark. Is there a second?
Second. Joel Barton.
Thank you, Joel. And Robin, will you call for the roll?
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Barton,
Yes.
Robbie Cobos,
Yes.
David De La Torre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza.
Aye.
Amanda Gallo.
Aye.
Susan Granzella,
Yes.
Alan Guy,
Aye.
Jacob Lopez,
Jacob's had to step out for a few minutes.
okay. Michael Mark,
Aye.
Steve Pinelli,
Aye.
Jim Ruane,
Aye.
Mary Tykert,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you, Robin. And I just want to say for the record that I am ecstatic about appearing before the legislature for this 150-page review. I think it's an honor doing my term as board chair for us to be reauthorized as a board for another 4 years. I think that is saying a lot about CSLB and the pride that we take in consumer protection and all the other different entities that we do. So I'm looking forward to the hearing. So let's move into our next agenda item, which is enforcement. And that will be found on page 103. And Chair Jim Marine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Love. Good morning to everyone. I'm Jim Ruane, the Chair of the CSLB's Enforcement Committee. The first item on the enforcement agenda, F1, is the update regarding the November 29, 2023 Enforcement Committee meeting and possible approval of summary report. During the March 2023 board meeting, the board approved spending up to $75,000 to hire a consultant to perform an enforcement workload study. On July 24, 2023, CSLB contracted with Cooperative Personnel Services, CPS, to perform the study for $68,587.50 to determine two things. Number one, if the current special investigator investigation goals remain viable, and number two, to determine if enforcement classifications are appropriate for work performed. CPS is well underway on completing their research, and they have conducted a thorough review of the process, documentation, and complaint investigation data. The results and recommendations from the study are expected to be delivered to CSLB in January 2024. During the March 2023 board meeting, the board also authorized spending up to $75,000 to hire a second consultant to research the scope of unlicensed practice and evaluate disaster response resource requirements. A request for a proposal, or RFP, was released with a cutoff date to receive proposals by Tuesday, November 28, 2023. But unfortunately, there were no bidders. Staff have previously communicated with prospective consultants who advised conducting a study of this complexity will cost far more than $75,000. Therefore, staff recommended that the Enforcement Committee recommend to the full board raising the cap from $75,000 to $200,000. The motion was put forward and carried. As a result, we now have a fully formed motion from a committee of the boards that needs no first and second prior to a motion. The Enforcement Committee recommendation is that the board vote to approve increasing the amount of funds approved for the study from $75,000 to $200,000. Do board members have any comments? Are there any comments from public in the room?
Seeing none.
And Catherine, any comments from members on the public on WebEx?
Seeing none.
Robin, will you please call the roll?
We need a motion.
Need a motion. It's a fully formed motion from committee.
It's a fully formed motion, so we just need to call roll.
Thank you.
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Barton,
Yes.
Rodney Carlos,
Aye.
David De La Torre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Amanda Gallo,
Aye.
Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Alan Guy,
Aye.
Steve Pinelli,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jim Ruane,
Aye.
Mary Teichert,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you, Robin. And thank you, Jim, for your report.
Thank you.
Our next item is licensing, and to lead us through licensing and the testing portion begins on page 125. And our committee chair is Alan Guy. Alan, you have the floor.
Excuse me, Chair Love. We still have a number of items on.
I'm sorry.
Steve?
Now?
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, thank you. The next item discussed during the committee meeting was the Consumer Complaint Satisfaction Report, which is based on surveys of individuals who have filed complaints with the Enforcement Division against licensed or unlicensed contractors. The surveys assess the public's satisfaction with CSLB's handling of their complaints. Unfortunately, the satisfaction measure showed a steady decrease over the previous 5 years, comparing fiscal year 2018 to fiscal year 2022. Consumer satisfaction with the clarity of explanation of complaint procedures decreased from 76% to 63%. Satisfaction with information regarding case progress decreased from 68% to 54%. Satisfaction with timeliness of case processing decreased from 66% to 51%, and satisfaction with CSLB services decreased from 61% to 50%. I commented that as the Enforcement Committee Chair, I'm aware of the challenges faced by enforcement staff in adjusting to budget restrictions, the COVID pandemic, and the significant increase in solar complaints. I further commented that the previous budget challenges, which restricted the use of CSLB industry expert and arbitration programs, have since been resolved, and special investigators are back to performing field visits and job site inspections. Enforcement management continues to work closely with the special investigators to ensure that complaints are investigated as soon as possible after assignment. The recent implementation of the new multiple offender unit will also play a significant role in reducing staff caseloads and related complaint handling cycle times. More on this unit will be discussed in the next agenda item. The Enforcement Division also reported during the committee meeting that staff training initiatives for 2024 include biannual enforcement academies, career development, customer service, and staff development training opportunities. Enforcement management is optimistic that these complaint handling changes in staff training will significantly improve consumer satisfaction. Final item discussed during the committee meeting was the review, discussion, and possible action on development of a multiple offender unit to investigate licensees subject to multiple complaints. At the meeting, it was acknowledged that most solar contractors conduct their business in a professional and legal manner. But unfortunately, some solar contractors do not respond timely to their customer concerns, look to CSLB for their quality control, and engage in egregious acts causing significant consumer financial harm. The Enforcement Committee meeting included a discussion of the troubling increase in consumer filed solar complaints. In comparing fiscal year 2018-19 to 22 and 23, CSLB has seen a 176% increase in solar complaints, and during the same period, the number of non-solar complaints has remained steady, even showing a slight decline. CSLB currently has more than 900 open solar complaints, which is more than 20% of all CSLB open complaints. The excessive number of solar complaints has created a high caseload for many enforcement staff, and the egregiousness of solar complaints further contributes to workload issues. As a result, it was announced at the committee meeting that to provide effective consumer protection and address this unsustainable increase in consumer filed solar complaints, a multiple offender unit was The goal of the unit will be to focus on the solar contractors with the most open complaints, assign all of the complaints against a contractor to a single investigator, and take swift, aggressive action to persuade the contractor to resolve pending complaints and implement business practices that address consumer complaints prior to CSLB involvement. Going forward, solar contractors receiving multiple complaints should assume they will be subject They fail to respond timely to requests for corrective completion work from their customers, and CSLB incurs the expense of sending out an industry expert to determine the contracted work was not completely and/or performed to industry standards. CSLB will no longer hire industry experts for the purpose of assisting a solar contractor with multiple complaints to settle their disputes with their customers. CSLB staff have met with the Office of the Attorney General and developed a streamlined legal action process for these cases, and solar contractors need to be aware that consumer protection statutes will be strictly enforced. CSLB's Special Investigative Unit charges of unfair business practice against some of these solar contractors. In addition, CSLB has identified a solar industry expert who has agreed to provide remote guidance to consumers on correcting and completing their solar project if a field investigation of their complaint is not performed because their complaint is not needed to support legal action. In addition to these measures, further outreach to contractors is needed to confirm they understand home improvement contract requirements. We also believe that more can be done to help consumers understand how to identify and avoid predatory solar practices. CSLB will continue to work with our Public Affairs Office and industry partners to address these concerns. This is an information item only, and no action is required of the board. Do board members have any comments? Any comments from the public in the room?
Hey, Jim, I would just like to say there's a ton of feedback coming in. I don't know if someone can look at that. Someone needs to mute.
Thank you, Jim. I believe it's Steve's turn.
Steve?
Yeah.
Are you gonna, you or your committee chair are gonna ask for approval of the enforcement committee minutes? Was that in your script? It was at one point, but it may not be now. We do need the minutes for the packet.
I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't pick that up.
Yeah, I don't see it in here.
Kathleen, do we have any other comments from people on WebEx?
No, we did not.
This concludes my update on the recent enforcement committee meeting. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Enforcement Chief Steve Grove, provide an enforcement program statistical update. Steve?
Steve, on page 103, our enforcement committee meeting summary report. Steve, could you explain the committee meeting a little bit and ask Jim, you could ask for a motion?
Yeah, so at the enforcement committee meeting, wait, are we talking about the motion to
approve your minutes?
Just to approve the minutes? Okay.
They just briefly discussed, you had an enforcement committee meeting.
Okay, so we had an enforcement committee meeting, and during that committee meeting, we discussed the implementation of the multiple offender unit, and we also discussed the increasing the fee for the study on the underground economy from 75,000 to 200,000, and so now we need to have a recommendation to approve that.
Yeah, we just need to have these minutes.
Just to approve the minutes.
Through the chair, I have a question with the legal. Since this is a committee meeting summary report, is that official enforcement committee minutes for approval?
The board can recognize these as minutes to approve the minutes and what happened.
That's all we're asking is that you would approve the minutes from that meeting. It's been our standard practice here.
Through the chair, Mr. Ruane, Michael Mark will make a motion to approve the minutes, the summary report as minutes of the past enforcement committee meeting.
Okay.
So we need a motion to approve the enforcement committee summary report.
Yes, motion made by Michael Mark. And I need a second.
Second,
And who is that?
David Delatorre.
Thank you, Dave. And Robin, will you call the roll?
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Bart,
Yes.
Rodney Cobos,
Aye.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Amanda Gallo,
Aye.
Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Alan Guy,
Aye.
Jacob Lopez, Diana Love, Steve Pinelli,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jim Ruane,
Aye.
Mary Tyker.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Is Steve now going to give us an enforcement program statistical update?
Yes, thank you, Jim. This section begins on page 113 of your board packet. The first item is an update on staff vacancies. Out of approximately 220 positions in the enforcement division, there are 24 vacancies. The management team is working hard to fill these positions. Candidates have already been selected for 11 of the positions and are pending final approval. The first highlight I would like to share is at the bottom of page 113 titled CSLB Recommends Criminal Prosecution and details the highly successful investigation and prosecution of licensed contractor Jeffrey Wynn. In October 2019, a Los Gatos consumer entered into a $330,000 home improvement contract with Wynn. CSLB's investigation established multiple administrative and criminal violations, including failure to exercise his duties as the qualifier, fraudulent use of an incorrect license number, obtaining money by false pretenses, and aiding and abetting 2 unlicensed contractors, one of which was previously a revoked licensee. The 2 unlicensed contractors were charged with fraudulent use of a contractor's license, obtaining money by false pretenses, and contracting without a license. In November of 2022, CSLB referred the case to the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office. And in August, arrest warrants were issued for all 3 individuals, each with bail set at $40,000. In addition, an administrative case was referred to accusations seeking revocation of Wynn's contractor's license. And that hearing was scheduled for yesterday. The next highlight I would like to share is on page 115, titled Husband and Wife Charged Related to Tubbs Fire. A Sonoma County couple who lost their home in the 2017 Tubbs fire entered into a contract with unlicensed contractors Andrew and Jennifer Dixon, doing business as Acre Designs, Inc., to act as project managers for the construction of a new home. In addition to managing the project, the contract included providing all construction material and performing the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work for a total of $459,000. The consumers paid a total of $447,000 to the Dixons. All other construction work was to be performed by licensed contractor Empire Contracting in a separate contract for $411,000 between the consumers and Empire Contracting. Ultimately, in July of 2019, Andrew Dixon informed Empire Contracting and the consumers that he would be unable to complete the work due to project costing increases. The Sonoma County consumers had to purchase materials and hire other contractors to finish the project and reported spending just under $300,000 to complete just the Dixon's portion of the new home construction. In March of 2019, another homeowner in Napa County entered into a similar contractual relationship with the Dixons. As with the previous situation, the Dixons were going to act as project managers and Empire Contracting was going to do the majority of the construction. The homeowner paid the Dixons a total of $20,000, and the only work they performed was a layout of the property created from a drone video. The CSLB investigator referred the cases to both the Sonoma and Napa County DA's offices. In August of 2023, CSLB was notified that both counties filed charges against Andrew and Jennifer Dixon in connection with the projects. In Sonoma County, the Dixons are charged with theft from an elder and contracting without a license in an area for which a state of emergency has been declared, which is chargeable as a felony. In Napa County, they are charged with contracting without a license and diverting money from a loan that was obtained for the payment of services, labor, materials, or equipment. There's an active arrest warrant for both in both counties. Empire Contracting was issued a letter of admonishment for associating with an unlicensed contractor after being cooperative in the investigation into the Dixon's unlicensed practice. Next, I would like to provide a statistical overview of the Enforcement Division, which begins on page 116 of your board packet. During the 10-month period from January 1st, 2023 to October 31st, 2023, the division opened 16,317 investigations. With current staffing levels, optimum maximum Enforcement Division caseload is 4,740 pending complaints. As of October 31st, the pending caseload was moderately higher at 5,132. And again, the reason for the higher caseloads continues to be the increase in solar complaints each month, approximately 200 per month. Consumer service representatives and investigators in the Enforcement Division are working very hard to keep up with the incoming complaints. When handling licensee cases, the CSRs have successfully settled 37% and closed out 75% this year. This means that the special investigators only have to fully investigate 25% of the complaints received, and 37% of our consumers have their issues resolved in a very short period. The weighted monthly case closing average for special investigator and investigative centers was 9 closures per month. just one less than the closure goal 10. Another board goal is to appropriately disposition all but 100 complaints within 270 days of receipt. As of October 31st, 2023, 207 complaints exceeded 270 days in age. Highlights of some of the division's significant accomplishments between January 1st, 2023 and October 31st are as follows. Complaint mediation efforts by the Intake Mediation Center and investigative centers resulted in more than $30.8 million in restitution to financially injured parties. 488 letters of admonishment were issued. The investigative centers referred 534 of the 1,800 legal action investigations for criminal prosecution. 414 cases referred to arbitration, resulting in $3.2 million in restitution ordered to injured parties. 649 licensee citations issued, 612 non-licensed citations issued, $1.5 million of civil penalties collected, $426,000 collected for investigation cost recovery, 164 accusations filed, and 162 license revocations. And finally, I'll provide a brief update on proactive enforcement, which is conducted by the 27 special investigators assigned to the Statewide Investigative Fraud Team, or SWIFT. And this information begins on page 118 of your packet. During this reporting period, SWIFT conducted 30 undercover sting operations across the state, participated in 318 sweep days, and responded to 834 leads, or tips received from industry and public. Investigators completed 2,629 investigations with 717 cases resulting in an administrative or criminal legal action. And additionally, 961 advisory notices were issued for relatively minor violations. And that concludes the enforcement statistical update. I'll turn it back over to Chair Ruane.
Thank you very much, Steve. This is an information item only. No action is required of the board. Are there any comments from board members? Any public comment from anyone in the room? From anyone on WebEx?
Amen.
All right, thank you. This concludes the enforcement items on the agenda. Thank you, Chair Love. Back to you.
Thank you. Before we continue to our next item, I am going to call for a 10-minute break. It is 10:36. See you back at 10:46.
You just want to unplug mine and plug yours in?
I did. I just wanted to make sure here where there wasn't anything there.
So just want to plug mine in?
Yeah.
Oh, I have different than you? Find out which one yours is.
No, I think it's on mine.
This should be muted right now. IT, is this muted right now?
No.
We can mute right there. Look, 1 second. Can you move that?
Okay, I'm calling the meeting back to order. We are now on agenda item G, which is licensing. Leading us through the licensing and testing portion, beginning on page 125, is Licensing Committee Chair Alan Guy. Alan, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Love. I am Alan Guy, Licensing Committee Chair, and I am providing the Licensing Division update today with assistance from Licensing Chief Carol Gagnon. I will highlight a few items for the board. Please turn to page 123 for agenda item G1. You may recall at the end of each year, staff requests the board review and potentially approve grant awards for the construction management education account. As seen on page 125 this year, the board requested and received approval for the Department of Consumer Affairs to increase disbursement authority from $100,000 to $225,000 in fiscal year 2023-2024. This will provide additional funding for institutions that offer construction management education. This is done each year based on the amount of funds in the account. The $255,000 is distributed among 5 public colleges selected by the Construction Management Education Advisory Committee. The members of the committee are listed on page 125. Revenues in the account are from voluntary contributions made by licensees at the time of the license renewal fee payment and are sufficient to support this request. Is there any comment from board members in Sacramento or on WebEx? Is there any public comment in the room? Catherine, is there any public comment on WebEx?
No public comment at this time.
Okay. I would like to ask the board to consider the following motion. Direct staff to distribute the 2023 CMEA grant awards to the identified colleges according to the staff recommendation on page 126, based on approval from the Department of Finance to expend $255,000 from the CMEA account. Do I have a motion and a second?
Ruane, so moved.
Second, Jacob Lopez.
All right, Ruane and Lopez, thank you. Is there any comment from board members in Sacramento or on WebEx? This is the final comment.
Alan, can
Yes.
I ask, did you state 255 or 225?
255.
Okay, we need it, I think it was a typo. We need to correct that to 225. It's correct in the packet, it's just not on the script.
Okay. So back to the motion, it's for $225,000 from the CMEA account. Thank you for correcting that. I'm assuming the motion and second still stands, so I'll ask for comments from the board. Okay, any public comment in the room or on WebEx?
Seeing none.
Okay, Robin, please call roll.
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Barton,
Yes.
Rodney Cobos,
Aye.
David Delatorre,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Amanda Gaia. Amanda Gaia,
I believe she left.
okay. Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Alan Guy,
Aye.
Jacob Lopez,
Aye.
Steve Pinelli,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jim Ruane.
Aye.
And Mary Teichert.
Aye.
No, I believe Mary, she left.
She said that, yeah. Motion passes.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Alan.
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Oh, there's more? Okay.
Thank you, Chair Love. Moving on to the licensing and testing statistical update, agenda item G2, which begins on page 129. Regarding applications, the table on page 129 indicates the number of applications received for new licenses, additional classifications, replacing qualifiers, and home improvement salespersons. As you can see, CSLB has already received over 39,000 applications in the first 10 months of the year. This is comparable to the amount we received last year at this time. On page 130, you can see that all of the processing times are now at or below 2 weeks, well within our 3-week processing goals. For application processing, this measurement is when a technician begins processing the application. The entire length of time for license or registration issuance is dependent on the applicant. Examples include passing exam or submitting workers' compensation and bonding. The goal of staying below 3 weeks to first handle applications is a customer service benchmark. It ensures all types of applicants hear back quickly about the status of their application and are able to move forward in the licensure process without delays. Please note the total number of renewals received in the table on page 132. They went down between calendar year 2021 and 2022, but are on track to rebound by the end of 2023. We have already received more than 100,000 renewals in the last 10 months. If we continue to average slightly more than 10,000 renewals a month, we are on track to rebound to 2021 numbers, which will be back up to over 120,000 as opposed to 117,000 renewals in 2022. Regarding the workers' compensation stats on page 133, the percentage of licensees with workers' compensation policies has increased by 3%. We think this is a result of SB 216, the bill which required workers' compensation for 4 additional classifications, which are C20 HVAC, C22 asbestos abatement, C8 concrete, and D49 tree service in 2023. Addressing the experience verification unit statistics on page 136, thank you, Michael Mark, for expressing interest in the experience verification unit after the September board meeting. On October 31st, Michael Mark met with staff to discuss ideas for improving the review of applications to ensure consumer protection. David Foyt followed up with an email to the board explaining that with COVID and other priorities, the 3% review was for the most part transferred to the enforcement division, who took a different approach for the identification of applications for field investigation. Focus shifted more towards applications that were previously rejected or withdrawn for lack of experience, those flagged because of an enforcement investigation, those suspected of submitting false documentation, and other concerning issues. The 3% field investigation review currently being conducted by the enforcement division is more accurately described as actively flagged applications as opposed to randomly pulled applications. I look forward to scheduling a licensing committee meeting in January to discuss a possible regulatory review of the 3% regulation and the possibility of moving continued updates of this section to the enforcement portion of the board packet. I applaud licensing staff for their comprehensive review they currently do of each application submitted for licensure. In the last 3 fiscal years, approximately 20,000 applicants went void, many because the applicant did not provide sufficient documentation of their work experience to meet licensure requirements. The goal is to provide the most effective consumer protection possible with available resources. As seen on the table on page 139, CSLB plays a vital role in helping consumers secure financial restitution as a result of final court judgments, with over $20 million paid back to consumers in calendar year 2022. Page 140 highlights CSLB's ongoing relationship with other state agencies, including EDD, DIR, and Franchise Tax Board. Since November of 2022, CSLB has helped those agencies collect over $24 million in outstanding liabilities. You can find the testing update on page 141. Between November 2022 and October 2023, PSI exams administered close to 46,000 exams for CSLB candidates. In addition, CSLB expanded to 2 new test centers on August 1st, 2023, in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Wilsonville, Oregon. Currently, there are no backlogs in test administration. As you can see on page 143, the Exam Development Unit has released 9 newly updated exams since July of 2023. Each of these new exams constitute an item bank of between 600 and 1,000 items. From those item banks, The exam specialists create versions of the exam to send out to the test centers. On page 144, there's an update on the Spanish translated exams. As of November 1st, 2023, over 500 exams have been administered using the translated versions. The rest of the translated versions will be in test centers by the end of this year. This concludes the licensing division update. Do any board members have any comment?
Through the chair, third guy, I would like to say what's really good is that wait times of licensing processing times. And I think what's happening is our CSR times are lower too. I think there was a chart previously where it's down to like one of the lowest times in my tenure as a board member. So collectively, CSLB is with budgets, with renewal times, with CSR times, everything's running really smoothly. And I think all that collectively is helping each department help each other out. So with that, that's my comment.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? Is there any public comment in person or on WebEx?
Seeing none.
I think that concludes, hold on a second. I lost the page. I think that concludes the report. Back to you, Sherlock.
Thank you, Alan. Before we go into closed session, we have one more item, which is public affairs, which begins on page 149. I'll turn it over to the Public Affairs Committee Chair, Ms. Ellen Garza.
Thank you, Chair Love. As the Chair of the Public Affairs Committee, I'll be providing an update of what occurred at the Public Affairs Committee meeting on November 29th of 2023. The summary of this meeting can be found in your packet on page 149 of the pamphlet that's been provided. We discussed improvements that are being made on CSLB's website to provide better customer service to our stakeholders. This includes revising the alert box on the home page with down payment details, updating the Solar Smart page, and also updating publications to be current and accurate, along with translating more items into Spanish and other high demand languages. More videos can be translated into Spanish in the new year, which leads us to the next item of the Public Affairs Committee meeting. Videos that outline for next year will be provided. As such, these videos are related to solar tips and to women in construction, with more and more to come. Staff has also showed a recently updated video on the last item of the committee meeting, which was focusing on the strategic plan, item 4.2, which is to develop new board member orientation. The recently completed orientation video was shared with committee members and will soon be shared with all members along with accompanying PDF overview. And this will be shared at the end of the month. Board members here in Sacramento remotely, do you have any edits to the November 29, 2023 committee meeting summary report? Seeing and hearing none, if there are no edits at this point, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the November 29, 2023 committee meeting summary report. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
David
Second,
Delatorre.
Steve Finelli.
And who's the second, please?
Steve Finelli.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
With that,
Who made the motion?
who made the motion was David Delatorre, I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the second, Steve?
Steve.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there any further board member comments or questions before we take public comment? If not, is there any public in the room or off-site, Catherine, that would like to make comment on these issues?
Seeing none at this time.
Thank you, Catherine. Any board member comments or questions before we ask for the roll call? Seeing none, Catherine, would you be so kind? Or who's leading roll call?
Diana Love,
Yes.
Joel Barton,
Yes.
Rodney Cobos,
Aye.
David Delatour,
Aye.
Miguel Galarza,
Aye.
Amanda Gaia, Susan Granzella,
Aye.
Alan Guy,
Aye.
Jacob Lopez,
Aye.
Steve Pinelli,
Aye.
Michael Mark,
Aye.
Jim Ruane.
Aye.
Motion passes.
This is Mary
With
Tiger.
that, I'd like to move on to item 8.2, Public Affairs Program Update. I will now proceed with the Public Affairs Update, which starts on page 155. I will note.
Miguel, let me just quickly interrupt you just for a second. We got to roll call one board member.
Mary Tiger.
Aye.
Thank you.
No worries. Sorry about that. I assume the motion still carries, yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Unfortunately, in your packet, there was an unfortunate error in the page numbering on the online package, pages 140, 155 and 165. The Public Affairs Office, or with known as PAO, is responsible for media, industry, licensing, and consumer communications, as well as outreach. They provide proactive public relations, respond to media inquiries, and develop and distribute publications and newsletters. They also conduct educational and outreach for consumers and contractors. PAO creates content for CSLB's social media channels and website, including webcasts and videos. They conduct a workshop and seminars for disaster survivors and contractors and present speeches to service groups and organizations. Disaster response has been a key part of CSLB's outreach efforts over the past year. CSLB worked to educate property and business owners that they are not harmed by unlicensed or unscrupulous contractors after disaster. Between August 1st of 2023 and October 31st of 2023, CSLB staffed and participated in only one disaster recovery center, or DRC, throughout California. This was a DRC in August after Tropical Storm Hillary caused damage in the Riverside County, California. This was a welcome relief from all the natural disasters that we in California have had over the last numerous years. So it was a welcome relief. In the area of the video and digital services, PAO has focused on creating informational videos for consumers, licensees, and applicants. Recent videos have included tips on swimming pool construction and for hiring roofing contractors, along with a short video promoting Construction Inclusion Week in October and in social medias. The videos are shared on YouTube and other social media platforms archived in the CSLB website. PAO has also prioritized translating and producing Spanish language consumer and industry videos. You can see the list of the live and recorded videos starting on page 157 of your pamphlet. Beginning on page 158, you will see that the PAO has helped increase CSLB's following on social media by improving engagement with applicants, licensees, and news media and other stakeholders. CSLB has maintained an active presence in Facebook, Instagram, X, known as Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, and LinkedIn, where all the platforms have shown significant growth. Public affairs staff stay close to date with trends on social media and best reaching CSLB's audience, as evident by some of the top posts, one of which included a reference to Taylor Swift. Posts related to Stings also have been very popular. On page 161, PAO shows an updated subscriber list of more than 192,000, which includes the licensee's information history. The subscribers list also gets CSLB's industrial bulletins and press releases out for stakeholders. One industry bulletin has been issued between August and October related to the release of the Spanish exams and out-of-state test center. 5 news releases have been issued on the same period of time, all related to Sting results, including one issued in October after 2 people were arrested in a Sting in the Bay Area. PAO responded to 19 media inquiry requests between August and the end of October. The media coverage focused on various topics, including Sting operations, results, solar, and complaints regarding contractors. On page 162 and 163, it shows us the outreach events that CSLB has attended between August and October. You will see that the Public Affairs Office has been busy traveling the state to provide key consumer protection information to seniors and other stakeholders. The What Seniors Should Know publication is frequently provided in outreach events and was recently updated to provide current and accurate information. The Public Affairs Office also writes and publishes content for internal communications. On page 164, you'll see that PAO has published 7 employee Intran articles between August and October, highlighting upcoming meetings, licensing division achievements, and the Southern California Enforcement Academy. The intranet is accessible to all CSLB employees around the state, and the first thing they see when they open up their web browser on their work computers. Finally, on page 165, CSLB's Public Information Center was improved average wait time for callers. In October, the wait times were at 3 minutes, not including the board packages, as the average wait times in November were even lower at 2 minutes. Since this is an informational item only, no action is required of the board. Given that, are there any board members that like to have any comments on this agenda item, either here or remote? Hearing and seeing none. Is there any public here or off-site, Catherine, that would like to make public comment?
Seeing none there as well.
Thank you so much, Catherine. With that, Chair Love, that concludes the Public Affairs Program update. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. I would like to take a moment just to thank all the committees for meeting and providing us with key consumer protection information to our stakeholders and to all those that listen in and go to our website. Thank you so much for all that you do. Now we will move to our closed session to consider 2 additional issues. Closed session will be our last agenda item for the day. This agenda item is not available for viewing by the public. After closed session, we will briefly reconvene to open session and adjourn. I now ask that the webcast be moved to practice mode to remove the public from the session and retain just the board members. We will take a 10-minute prior break to begin closed session to ensure the public is cleared from WebEx and from here in the room in Sacramento. We will return from closed session to adjourn. However, the adjournment will not be live streamed. Thank you all for attending. And it is 11:12.
Mike, how is it possible those questions with me?
Oh, you're gonna see here.
That's my kind of figure. So I want to make
Which means.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Confidential. Okay. Right.
And he works out of this office.
Yeah. Why are we shaking?
Yeah.
Well, the next board meeting or meeting is that's in just 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.